Yesterday I gave my second speech from level 4 of the Pathway's Visionary Communications path. So I'm 3/4 of the way down that path. My assignment was to speak about building a social media presence. In their words, I'm supposed to talk about the best use of different types of online communication. I need to create and maintain an online profile to promote yourself or an organization. This project is a cakewalk for me. I'm a computer expert. I've been using social media, such as it was, since the days of dial-up communications in the 1980s, before the internet. I maintained a website for my business and personal interests for 25 years. I use social media to keep in touch with friends old and new, half a world away from my present home in Ukraine. I use my position as a top 500 Amazon reviewer and my YouTube channel to promote my worldview. I am profoundly disturbed by what I see in the Pathways program. I gave this speech yesterday off the cuff, departing from the one I had prepared. Today I've written it down. As you can see, I'm reading it, which is a departure from Toastmasters norms, but I want to get it right in my content. I think is much more important than the substance or the quality of my delivery. So here goes. Why am I profoundly disturbed by the Pathways program? One symptom is this. I've been asked to give speeches every week for the past 2 months. And I've done it every week with the exception of the one when my kid had a back-to-school picnic. In a healthy club, there's competition to get on the agenda. We simply don't have speakers. I am far further advanced down Pathways than any other of the 25 members in the club. I don't know of anybody else who's gotten past level 1. Toastmasters International, for all their promotion of Pathways, failed to generate much enthusiasm over here in Ukraine. Nobody, including their ambassadors, tasked with building the enthusiasm, understood what it was. Pathways is structured so that you cannot see what will be expected of you until it is the very next thing you have to do. Toastmasters International did not trust the membership enough to tell us what the program really amounted to. We were skeptical. I'm telling you today that our skepticism was fully justified. 50 years ago, Albert Hirschman wrote the famous article entitled Exit, Voice, and Loyalty. He described the choices a person faces when an organization confronts him with an unpleasant situation. He can leave, he can put up with it, or he can raise his voice in trying to change things. Leaving is easy. Most people do that. Putting up with it, they do for a while. The last one, talking about it, is the hardest. Raising my voice ensures that Toastmasters International will regard me as a heretic, off the reservation, persona non grata. Organizations do not like criticism. As I raise my voice and criticism of Pathways, I'm more likely to make enemies than friends. Why do I do it? Anger and fear. I'm angry that they would make such a radical change to the program that without involving members in the decision. And I'm fearful that they will destroy a very effective 100-year-old organization. Toastmasters has been a central part of my life for the past decade, and I don't want to see it destroyed. Today I'm making 2 major points. Instead of teaching people how to deliver a speech, how to express their own ideas, Toastmasters now tells people what to talk about. Instead of teaching one thing well, public speaking, Toastmasters is now attempting to teach 4 additional things for which they are not prepared: leadership, management, communication, and self-confidence. The evaluation techniques, which are effective for teaching speaking, do not apply to the other 4. Toastmasters doesn't even pretend to have new evaluation techniques. There's no way they could implement them. Going to my first point, Toastmasters is now telling people what to talk about instead of how best to deliver their own ideas. Look at the plan for visionary communications. It's quite representative. It includes 40 of the 55 topics in the entire speech catalog. Though there may be 10 paths, they are not that different. They overlap a great deal. Speakers do have some latitude at level 1. Their icebreaker is totally original. It's about themselves. Their second and third speeches are constrained only by the fact that they have the same evaluator, and the evaluator is looking to see if they make progress. But at level 2, there's virtually no freedom. The topics are given: leadership style, communication style, and Toastmasters mentoring. The emphasis is on what you say, not how you say it. And it doesn't build to anything. The speaker is not invited to go further with whatever he might learn about his communication style or his leadership style. The third speech is on mentoring. Mentoring was not even a verb 30 years ago. The assumption is that everybody needs a mentor in order to succeed. That's out and out wrong. I have served as a mentor for several of our speakers, but most of the real champions we've developed were self-motivated, and they learned on their own. The first speech in level 3 is develop a communication plan. Toastmasters didn't provide any reason why they assumed everybody would need a communications plan. I happened to have one, and I needed one. And that's what I talked about. But certain types of cubicle rat, public relations and marketing types, do need communications plans. I don't think most people do. It should not be a requirement. They should let us choose what we talk about. The 2 elective speeches in level 3 look like a breath of fresh air. I use them to practice with visual aids and expressive language. With level 4, it was back in prison. They lead off with a mandatory speech on communicating change, as if everybody going through the Toastmasters program at some point will have to change things. Just like one supposes somebody at Toastmasters International felt an obligation to change a program that had worked for almost 100 years. By the way, they were so self-confident that they did it in a secretive manner so that nobody could figure out what was coming, or could even figure it out once it was on top of them. The electives at level 4 are also quite constrained. The speaker does not speak on the topic of his choosing. Instead, the focus is on podcasts, social media, and other communications and organizational issues. You don't get to choose. The speech I am giving today is on using social media. You are viewing this on YouTube. Although I use YouTube and social media all the time, I don't expect that most members do so. They simply don't have a need, aside from talking with friends on Facebook. Toastmasters, come on, teach people how to speak. Don't tell them what they need to talk about. Actually, my understanding of level 4 is only approximate. Despite banging on Toastmasters International for a month, they have not been able to advance me from level 3 to level 4. I have composed speeches only from the material in the catalog. Toastmasters International failed miserably in putting the logistics infrastructure in place to support the rollout of Pathways. Now, level 5 looks even worse than level 4. They dictate the topics of 2 speeches: develop your vision and reflect on your path. The titles sound like they came from a human resources department specialist's nightmare. Even the single elective is no more than Hobson's choice among distasteful corporate topics. Come on, let us choose. Let us decide what we want to talk about. I will close in repeating. For 95 years, the Toastmasters program taught people how to deliver speeches on topics of interest to them. Now, Toastmasters presumes to tell us what to talk about. That is not why people join. For 95 years, Toastmasters had a single mission, the one I just named, teaching people how to deliver speeches on topics that interest them. Just as they abandoned that one, telling people what to talk about, Toastmasters International presumes to assume 4 other missions. They tell us they will teach us how to be leaders, managers, how to communicate effectively, and how to build self-confidence. Balderdash, the model doesn't fit whatsoever. When we had the freedom to choose our own topics, evaluators would give us feedback on how well we presented our speech on our topic. The major questions were about organization, choice of words, vocal variety, gestures, body language, visual aids, emotional impact, and the ability to relate to the audience. All that the evaluator had to go on was the speech itself, the general idea of the objective of the speech. The feedback was delivered immediately after the speech. There was a standard template for how you deliver an evaluation. We measured our progress going through the steps of the competent communicator and advanced communicator, bronze, silver, and gold. Speech contests measured how we were doing vis-a-vis other speakers. The evaluation model simply doesn't work with these other 4. It would be impossible to establish a template for measuring how effectively a person leads, manages, communicates, or exudes self-confidence. Thank goodness Toastmasters didn't even try. However, that leaves the evaluator with nothing to go on but what the person says. I'm speaking today on establishing a social media presence. My evaluator has nothing to go on other than what I say. I could claim I have a website, a presence on Amazon, a YouTube channel, and a Facebook account. My evaluator can't look into it, has no idea whether they exist and whether or not they're any good if they do. All she has to go on is what I'm saying here. The evaluation is appropriate for a speech. It's not appropriate to what she's supposed to evaluate, my social media presence. Pathways is a disaster. I haven't heard a good word on it from anybody other than the Pathways ambassadors who rolled it out 6 months ago. And even they are conspicuously silent. They're not even attending our meetings. Maybe they're embarrassed. I'm not aware of any members of our club other than myself who have progressed past level 1. We have long been the biggest club in Ukraine. I think we still are. It's always been difficult to get on our agenda. And yet, as I said at the opening, I have been asked to speak at every meeting for the last 2 months because nobody else is stepping up to do it. This is a problem for the club. It's a problem for Toastmasters. Where are our members? Where are our speakers? People don't join this club to collect ribbons and awards. They're here to learn how to speak, and especially how to deliver speeches in English. My proposal is that we ignore Pathways. Have our new members give speeches from the Competent Communicator Manual and evaluate them by the criteria in that manual. Let them speak on topics that interest them. Report progress to Toastmasters International, or not, as a practical matter. If the member wants some recognition, map whatever they've done onto some pathway scheme and report the progress. If not, let them be content that they're learning what they came to learn. Our club offers good fellowship. We have good picnics. We sometimes have dances. Members of Toastmasters Ukraine have a way of falling in love and getting married. I did. We do this on our own. Toastmasters International can take no credit for any of it. What we have is worth preserving. Let's go ahead with or without the abysmal Pathways program. Thank you.